Hello everyone, I hope you're having a good day. So I'm your student teacher, Cricket Alvarez, and today we're going to talk about proofreading and copy editing. And we will especially discuss the common technical skills that you must possess as a proofreader, as an editor, or even as an effective writer. But before we dive into the central topic, we should have a review on what you've previously discussed with Sir 30. So last time you talked about creative nonfiction. And to encapsulate it, you just have to remember that creative nonfiction is a genre of writing that presents factual narratives. So through this, you can write historical events, you can write truthful accounts, or you can even write your personal experiences through a prose style of writing. So this way, you can definitely use creative techniques to communicate your message or even to convey a certain mood. So usually ang length ng creative nonfiction work ay 3,000 to 5,000 words, or sometimes it's even shorter, and its forms include flash fiction, personal essay, and a memoir. And examples naman na binigay ni Sir 30 ay The Conjugal Dictatorship, It's Men's World, Tikim, On the Origin of Species, and many more. Okay, so for a little motivation, you just have to point out kung alin dito sa dalawa ang final written work. So, as a reader, which one do you think was published to the public? Is it number 1 or is it number 2? Okay, so the correct answer is, of course, number 2. And I'm pretty sure that you guys, as HUME students, you have the feel for it. Una pa lang, as viewers, you already know which one looks neater. So in this case, it's number 2. And first of all, it's justified yung number 2 and maayos yung alignment ng number 2. And upon looking closely, you'll be able to point out the errors within the excerpt doon sa number 1. So particularly, yung word dito sa number 1 na naka-underline ay yung anyone. Sa number 1, yung anyone ay naging phrase siya. So it's wrong because we have to remember na yung anyone, yung walang space, ay indefinite pronoun. So as you may recall, as an indefinite pronoun, dapat wala siyang particular person na nire-refer. So unlike yung anyone with a space, may particular person na tinutukoy among a group. So for example, any one of the girls. So anyone with a space, may tinutukoy na particular person in a group. So para madali ring matandaan, you just have to examine kung yung anyone ba ay may kasunod ba siyang preposition na of. Kasi kung meron, that's a good indicator na ang dapat mong gamitin na anyone ay yung may space in between. Kung wala naman siyang of na kasunod, ibig sabihin, yung anyone na walang space ang kailangan mong gamitin. So, pangalawa dito is yung subconscious kasi wala dapat siyang hyphen. And later, we will also be talking about this kung kailan nga ba merong hyphen ang isang word. So, similarly, yung ourselves, pronoun siya dapat na walang space in between. And yung solves naman, hindi siya nag-agree sa noun that comes after it, which is problems. Kasi it's plural, so dapat ang verb ay solve. So, yung in naman dito ay dapat from siya kasi ang sense ay ano ang makukuha mo mula sa pag-dream. So, mula, kaya dapat from. And lastly, yung fell, dahil ang context naman dito ay ang pag-fall mo into sleep ay hindi siya thing in the past, kaya dapat hindi past tense yung gagamitin mo. So, dapat fall. So, yun. As a result, ang final copy, syempre, ay yung number 2. So, overall, na-address dito sa number 2 at napalitan yung mga errors na meron sa number 1. Kaya, kung titignan, mas maganda siyang basahin. And ano nga ba namang relevance ng motivation na yon, nung ginawa nating activity na yon? Of course, sa example na yon, we are able to evaluate kung gaano kalaking difference ang nagagawa kapag maganda yung written output, kapag walang errors. So, those same issues, yun yung mga pag-uusapan natin ngayon sa proofreading and copy editing. So, ano nga ba yung proofreading and copy editing? Siguro proofreading, most of us are familiar with this kasi palagi siyang binabanggit ng mga profs natin. So, sinasabi nila na you should proofread your work, you should proofread your research, and things like that. And yung copy editing naman, it might be new to some, but we will be giving them both a proper introduction sa ating discussion. Okay, so una, Copy editing, it is a process that ensures that the text is correct in terms of spelling, punctuation, grammar, semantics o yung meaning, and formatting. So it's making sure that the paper has no errors from your end as a copy editor. And this is the part where you point out what needs to be removed or changed in the paper. And just like what we did kanina sa motivation, ganun yung trabaho ng isang copy editor. So they mark things. So moreover, it ensures that the idea that the writer wishes to portray is clear and understandable. So dito na papasok yung tone of content. So is it formal? Is it informal? Maayos ba yung flow ng information? Madali ba siyang intindihin? And coherent ba siya? Consistent ba siya? Or well-connected ba yung mga thoughts within the work? And did it meet yung purpose ng work? So kung gusto mo persuasive yung essay mo, nung binasa mo ba siya ulit, naging persuasive nga ba siya? And those are the things na tinitignan ng mga copy editors. So yun yung mainly ina-analyze nila. So lastly, they also make sure that any factual data in the text is accurate. So they make sure that the dates are correct. The names of the people mentioned in the writing are correct. Tapos yung mga events, dapat tama. Kung ano yung nangyari, ganun yung nakasulat sa paper. So because after all, we don't want to spread misinformation naman sa ating mga panunulat. And then yung proofreading naman, ito yung reading and checking of proofs against a markup writing. So sa copy editing, you mark things that needs to be changed and removed. Tapos yung marked up copy naman na yon ang chine-check when you proofread. So late stage process siya kasi it comes after copy editing eh. So it basically aims to check over finer details, yung mga na-miss sa copy editing. And dito, i-cross-check yung edited work for spelling errors, for punctuation, sa grammar, and yung format niya. Kasi as an adjective, yung proof sa proofreading, ang ibig sabihin niya ay to become impenetrable. So dapat through and through, wala nang mintes yung paper mo and ready na siya for publication. So then, is it proofreading or copy editing? Here we have an illustration that comprehensively lists their differences and similarities. So sa copy editing, they check grammar, spelling, and punctuation. So sa proofreading naman, same thing na chine-check ng copy editing except yung mga grammar, spelling, punctuation errors na na-miss ng copy editor. So, sunod naman is correct word usage. So, dito naman sila nagkakapareho. So, both sa copy editing and sa proofreading, parehong palaging tinitingnan kung tama ba yung pagkakagamit ng word doon sa writing. So, copy editing, nagpa-fact check sila. So, sa copy editing, you make sure na that the information you've provided are factual kasi hindi na siya trabaho ng proofreader eh. Ang trabaho ng proofreader ay more on the technical side or technical elements ng isang language. So, hindi na nila focus yung pagpa-fact check. Yung proofreading naman, formatting issues. So, pag merong prescribed na format, yung professor mo, for example, i-check ng proofreader kung yung, kunwari, font style, yung indentation, yung citation ba, nasunod ba yung ganong prescribed na format. And guys, paalala lang po na you shouldn't proofread your own work ha. Pero bakit nga ba natin dapat ipapa-proofread sa iba yung gawa natin instead na tayo? Kasi pansin nyo kapag meron kayong output na pinapasa, alam nyo na binasa nyo siya ng maraming beses, you're sure na you've checked everything, na-scan mo na siya ng ilang beses, pero after mo siyang ipasa sa MS Teams or sa Google Class, chinek mo ulit, makikita mo na, uy, merong isang error. Kasi po, kaya nangyayari yon, there's such a thing as visual fatigue. So, no matter na gano'n mo siya karaming basahin, kasi ang alam na ng utak mo yung tamang grammar, yung tamang spelling, naka-ingrain na sa utak mo yung tama. Kahit basahin mo siya, although may error, it becomes impossible for you to notice. Kaya dapat, ibang tao yung magpo-proofread for us. Parang a fresh pair of eyes, parang ganon. E di yan, na-discuss na natin yung definitions, yung similarities and differences, at yung process nila. E ano ba namang importance nito sa inyo as students, especially as YUM students? So syempre, as YUM students, marami kayong sinusulat na essays. You have so many composition activities. And not only that, you also have your research. Though it's convenient na we have Grammarly, we have Killbot, and other AI softwares or programs that could help us while writing online. The issue then is yung pagiging available niya lang online. So, paano kung nasali ka bigla sa isang essay writing competition? Tapos, face-to-face siya or synchronous. Syempre, hindi mo na mapapakita yung same level of proficiency in writing kasi you heavily relied on those tools. So, hindi lang naman sa ganyang hypothetical situation natatapos ang problema. After all, it's just an exaggerated situation. And hindi din naman natin dinidemonize yung paggamit ng mga ganong tools minsan. Pero dapat as writers, we don't solely rely on these digital tools to make our writings right for us. So, lalo na ngayon, you guys are writing magazines, kaya helpful tong discussion natin about proofreading and copy editing. And dapat we are also equipped with the knowledge on how these rules on technical writing work. Kaya naman we will be talking about the technical skills that you need as writers. Pero bago pala tayo mag-proceed, do you guys have questions? If you do, please don't hesitate to express them para ma-discuss natin sila. Okay? Moving on. So, ito yung mga lesson objectives natin today. So, by the end of this lesson, you should be able to determine the importance of spelling, hyphenation, and punctuation. Number 2, by the end of this lesson, dapat you should be able to identify the common punctuation, hyphenation, capitalization, and spelling errors. And lastly, you should be able to demonstrate mastery in correct punctuation and capitalization. So, isa sa mga i-discuss natin today ay spelling. So, spelling is the art of correctly assembling words from their letters. And alam naman natin kung gaano ka eyesore yung supposedly professional grade na writing or work. Tapos may makikita ka mga misspelled words. So, in short, nakaka-turn off sila. Pero there's a way naman on how we could avoid those and meron tayong mga rules na i-discuss para makamit natin yung tamang spelling ng words. So, meron tayo ditong common spelling error. Ito yung words with IE and EI. So, we typically interchange them pero there's a way on para malaman nyo kung alin yung gagamitin sa isang situation. So, katulad na lang neto, we have Rule 1. You have to use IE when the word has a long E sound. So, ang example nito ay grief. Grief. Long E sound siya, so you have to spell it with IE. Another example naman is belief. Belief. Long E sound, so spell mo siya with IE. L-I-E-F. Belief. Same thing with relief. Relief. Long E sound, so ang spelling niya is R-E-L-I-E-F. Again, I-E kasi long E. Pero meron tayong exceptions. So, when it comes after letter C, although long E sound siya, kailangan mong isulat siya as EI instead, katulad na tong receive. Long E sound siya, pero dahil exception, nauuna yung C before the long E sound, so dapat EI ang spelling. So, another example is deceive, conceive. Long E sound sila, pero dahil may nauunang C before the long E sound, EI ang spelling. So, rule number 2, you have to use EI when there's a short E sound. So, katulad na lang ng foreign. Foreign. Short E sound, so ang spelling niya is EI. Foreign. And another example would be sovereign. Sovereign. S-O-V-E-R-E-I-G-N kasi short E sound. So, EI. So, isa pang sub-rule for rule number 2 is kapag long A sound, gagamitin mo yung EI. Katulad na lang ng slay. Slay. So, ibang slay yun na. Slay. S-L-E-I-G-H. EI kasi long A sound yung ginagamit. Another example would be neighbor. Neighbor. So, EI ang gagamitin for spelling neighbor kasi long A yung nay. So, ang exception lang dito is friend and soldier. And dun pala sa rule number 1 na exception lang ay neither, leisure, cease. Long E sound sila pero you have to spell it with EI. So, dito naman sa rule number 2 ang exception is friend, soldier. Short E sound yung friend and yung ger sa soldier pero you have to spell it with IE. Then, an example is the foreign. So, short E sound yung foreign ha. So, IE dapat ang gagamitin. So, the foreign soldier, so yung soldier, short E sound siya, pero exception kasi siya sa IE rule, kaya ang kailangan gamitin is IE. And then, accidentally dropped his shield. So, yung shield, long E sound siya, so IE in the field. So, field, same thing with the shield, IE ang gagamitin. Okay, so homonyms naman tayo. Ito yung words na meron silang same sound pero different spellings and syempre different meanings. So here we have there, and there. Yung unang there, yung T-H-E-I-R, ito yung possessive form ng they. So it has something to do with what belongs to them. Ano yung pagmamay-ari nila, as in they. So, ang example dito is, I ate their sweets. So, sa kanila yung sweets. Pagmamay-ari nila yung sweets. Kaya, T-H-E-I-R ang gagamitin. Okay, so there naman, dito tinutukoy yung lugar o yung place. So, dito ang spelling niya is T-H-E-R-E kapag lugar na doon. So, madali siya tandaan kasi kapag here, lugar siya, di ba? So, here, H-E-R-E, dito. Kapag naman doon, there, lugar ang tinutukoy. So, T-H-E-R-E. And ang example niya is, I'm going to hide over there, doon. So, lastly, meron ditong there. Ito yung contraction kasi may apostrophe. So, it implies na merong contraction. So, two words siya na combined into one. So, ang buo nito is they are. Sila ay. So, they are incredible. Sila ay incredible. Then, an example is, there's no need to confuse there, and there. While they are not an easy group of words, with practice, you can master their or kanila, their distinctions. Okay. Next, we have yung your and your. Yung your na nauuna, ito yung possessive form ng you. So, pagmamay-ari mo. Your. What's your name? Your name. So, ano ang pangalan mo? Pagmamay-ari mo yung pangalan. And then, yung pangalawang your naman na merong apostrophe, ibig sabihin may contraction ulit na nangyari. So, two words combine siya. And yung your na pangalawa is, it's short for you are. Ikaw ay. So, you are beautiful. Ikaw ay maganda. Ikaw ay beautiful. So, example again is, you're as charming. Ikaw ay as charming as your mom. Nanay mo. Your mom. Pagmamay-ari mo. So, your mom. So, sa pinakadulo naman is yung dalawang whose. So, yung nauunang whose, possessive form siya ng who. So, kagaya ng their and your, possessive form din ito. So, possessive form siya ng pronoun na who. So, kung yung who ang tinutukoy ay sino, ang tinutukoy naman ng whose na possessive form niya ay ang nagtatanong siya ng kanino. So, unidentified person pareho ang tinutukoy. So yung who, sino, yung whose na SE ang dulo ay kanino. So, example dito ay, whose sandwich is this? Kaninong sandwich ito? And then, pwede ring trick for this is, kapag narinig mo yung word na whose, tapos hindi ka sure kung alin dito sa dalawa yung gagamitin, makakatulong pag yung tanong ay sasubukan mo siyang, tatry mo siyang sagutin ng another possessive pronoun. So, for example, whose sandwich is this? Ang pwede mong isagot ay, it's his sandwich. So, possessive form yung his. It's his sandwich. It's mine, or it's my sandwich. So, answerable siya by another possessive form. So, lastly naman here, yung whose. So, again, merong apostrophe. So, it contains ng two words na combined together. So, in this case, ang pinagko-combine niya is who is, o kaya who has. So, ang Filipino na to ay sino ang. So, who's hungry? Sino ang gutom? Who is hungry? So, answerable naman siya by subjective pronoun as opposed to who, yung naunang whose na answerable by possessive pronoun. So, ang pwede mong isagot dito ay ako o siya. So, he is hungry or she is hungry o kaya I am hungry. So, ganun lang. Ang example dito ay, guess who's getting married next month? Who is? So, sino ang? And then, guess whose son is getting married next month? So, kaninong anak ang ipapakasal next month? Okay, so ang sunod naman natin pag-usapan ay hyphenation, o kaya hyphen. So, yung hyphen, isa siyang punctuation na nagko-connect ng dalawang words together to make one single word. So, iba siya from en dash and em dash kasi yung hyphen among the three siya yung pinakamaikli. And kanina, di ba, pinag-usapan natin sa motivation na yung word na subconscious, wala siya dapat hyphen in between. Pero bakit nga ba? Kasi sabi sa linking prefixes na rule for hyphenation, hyphens can be used to link prefixes. So, it's generally helpful to hyphenate when the letters brought into contact are the same or vowels. So, yung sa subconscious kasi, although prefix yung sub, hindi siya same letter with the kung saan nagsistart yung conscious. So, B yung dulo ng sub and C naman yung umpisa ng conscious. So, you don't need to hyphen it when that's the case. So, super important na ilagay mo yung hyphen kapag nagko-connect ka ng vowels kasi nakakatulong siya para basahin ng maayos yung word. Katulad na lang sa example dito na pre-industrial. So, imagine kung wala siyang hyphen na nagko-connect sa kanya together, pwede mo siyang basahin na pre-industrial or pre-industrial. So, kailangan dito sa case na to, lagyan natin siya ng prefix in between. So, you need to link them together with a hyphen. Yung prefix na sub, and yung prefix na non, and yung prefix na pre, para mas madaling basahin para sa readers. So, meron din ditong rule about units. So, units, ito yung words na nagde-describe kung ano nga ba yung sinusukat ng isang number. So, ang example dito is 30-year-old. Ang unit dito is year-old or year. So, anong dinidescribe ng 30 kung ilang taon? So, imaginein mo, tinanong ka ng, uy, ilan ka na? Hindi ba, ang vague niya? So, dapat, uy, ilang taon ka na? So, yung unit is yung taon. Okay? So, ang sabi dito, hyphenate numbers with units before nouns. So, kapag nauuna siya before a noun or dinidescribe niya yung noun, kailangan daw natin siyang lagyan ng hyphen. An adjective of two or more words is hyphenated, lalo na kapag yung dalawang adjective ay nagde-describe ng iisang noun together. Same thing with 50 foot. Isa lang yung dinidescribe nila. So, yung number na 50 and yung unit na foot, pinag-hyphenate mo siya together to describe yacht. So, dito naman we're going to talk about homographs. So, kanina napag-usapan natin yung homonyms. Dito naman ang homographs, ito yung same spelling sila pero iiba yung meaning nila. So, in this case, ang homograph dapat ginagamitan mo siya ng hyphen to indicate na ibang word siya from yung usual word na nakasanayan natin. So, a hyphen could make a big difference when it comes to homographs. Tulad na lang dito sa example. So, recreation. Yung naunang recreation, it talks about fun activities. Recreation. Yung pangalawang recreation naman with a hyphen, ibig sabihin ibang word siya. Recreation is gumawa ulit. To recreate, gumawa ulit. And then lastly, adverbs plus adjectives. So, dito naman sa situation na to, yung adverb, dinidescribe niya yung adjective. And then yung adjective, dinidescribe niya naman yung noun. But when combined together, the adverb and the adjectives describes one single thing, which is the noun. Pero merong exception. When the adverb daw ends in ly. So, ito yung sa baba nandito yung lively and then largely. So, sila yung exception. Okay, so sa example dito, yung verb na well, dinidescribe niya kung paano nakadamit, as in maayos na nakadamit. Yung adjective naman na dressed, ay dinidescribe niya dito yung character ng woman na nakadamit. So, when the adverb and the adjective are combined, dinidescribe nila yung woman as well-dressed o maayos ang pananamit ng babae na yon. Okay, so moving on to punctuation. Bago natin pag-usapan yung punctuation, kung meron kayong questions so far, you can just comment them. And dito kasi sa punctuation ang pag-uusapan na natin ay yung mga common punctuation rules na madalas nating nakakalimutan pag nagsusulat tayo. So una dito is yung period. So meron tayong rule number 1, or we have 3 rules actually, pero yung rule number 1, have to place a period at the end of a complete sentence that is a statement, an instruction, or a command. So example netong rule na to ay yung nasa rule 1 mismo. So after the rule 1, makikita nyo na yung sentence na to ay meron siyang period at the end kasi isa siyang klase ng statement na sentence or declarative sentence. So rule number 2, if the last item in the sentence is an abbreviation, do not follow it with another period kasi inherently meron na siyang period. Katulad nilang sa example na his son's name is Jason Miller Jr. So yung junior in-abbreviate siya na junior. And then JR ang spelling niya with a period to indicate na abbreviation siya. So after this, hindi mo na siya kailangan dagdagan ng another period. Okay, so rule number 3. At the end of a sentence that contains an indirect question, yung indirect question kasi, ito yung question na nagre-report sa isang hearer o kaya sa isang reader ng original question na, kunwari, hindi ako ang nagsabi o parang kinote niya lang na question. Therefore, yung statement ay sa kanya pa rin at hindi sa akin. Kunwari, ako yung nagsasabi o yung nagre-report. Kaya, period ang kailangan na punctuation. Para kasing nagiging declarative sentence lang siya. Katulad dito sa example. So, he asked me what was wrong. Sinasabi ko lang na tinanong niya ako kung ano yung mali. Siya yung nagtanong nung question na what was wrong, pero ako, ini-state ko lang na ganun yung question niya. So, you don't need to put a question mark sa dulo. You just need to put period kasi indirect question. Okay, so sunod is question mark. So when posing a direct query in an interrogative sentence, so just like basic questions, when you're asking a question, ang ilalagay mo sa dulo is question mark. So example is, what did you eat today? Anong kinain mo ngayon? So question siya, you have to put a question mark at the end. Okay, so rule number 2, a question mark replaces a period at the end of a sentence. So kapag meron na kasing punctuation na question mark sa dulo, you don't need to put another period pa to indicate na yun na yung end ng sentence. So incorrect yung will you dance with me? Question mark period. Ang correct ay will you dance with me? Question mark. And yun na yung end ng sentence. So rule number 3, do not use a question mark for an indirect question. While rhetorical questions could be written without a question mark. So for rhetorical questions, may option ka na wag mo na lagyan ng question mark yung iyong question or hindi siya actually question eh. Pero katulad siya ng rule number 3 na indirect question, period ang ilalagay mo. So ano nga ba yung rhetorical question? So rhetorical question, it is asked in order to create dramatic effect o kaya to get your point across. So example dito ay, why are you so pretty? So parang compliment siya. Pag ako nagsabi sa isang tao ng, why are you so pretty? I don't expect an answer. Hindi ko na-expect na sasagot siya na, ay nanalo kasi ako sa genetic lottery ng life. So that is a rhetorical question, dramatic effect or just to get your point across or to create a certain effect. And then rule number 4, if a question is within quoted material, a question mark should be placed inside the quotation marks. So kasi katulad dito sa Alberta asked, will you still be my friend? Si Alberta, tanong niya yon and kinote ko yung tanong niya word per word, word for word. So quotation siya, direct quotation siya, kaya yung question mark ay nasa loob ng quotation marks. Unlike yung pangalawa, do you agree with the saying, all's fair in love and war? Yung quotation ay hindi siya question. Isa siyang quote, famous quote na declarative. So, ako yung nagtatanong na, do you agree with that saying? Kaya dapat nasa labas ng quotation mark, ay ng quotation mark yung question mark. Sunod naman sa punctuations ay yung comma. So, rule number 1, we use a comma after a salutation of a friendly letter. So for example, si Miss Taylor Swift, meron siyang friend na ang pangalan ay John. So ang gagawin niya is, Dear John, comma. Yun ang gagamitin niya kasi friendly letter lang naman and they're just talking casually. They're just speaking casually. So rule number 2, use commas to separate words in a series, especially a series comma or yung Oxford comma na alam natin. And then, example nito is, the four seasons are spring, summer, fall, and winter. So, it indicates na merong series na magkakaibang words, kaya nasa-separate sila ng commas. When you list things, you use commas. Okay, so rule number 3, appositives and appositive phrases are usually set off by commas. Nasa-separate sila sa sentence using commas. So example nito ay, Jonathan the class clown made everyone laugh during the test. So in this sentence, ang appositive phrase ay yung class clown or the class clown. And yung appositive phrase, ito yung nagpo-provide ng additional information on the subject, which is Jonathan. And hindi naman siya necessary, pero helpful siya to clarify bilang dagdag information lang. So kahit tanggalin mo siya sa sentence, may sense pa rin yung Jonathan made everyone laugh during the test. And that would still make sense kahit na wala yung the class clown. So ganon. You set off yung appositive or appositives phrases sa sentence using 2 commas. Okay, so rule number 4, use a comma before coordinating conjunctions. So, ang coordinating conjunctions ay yung mga conjunction na nilalagay natin between independent clauses o yung clauses na separately may sense sila and complete sila ng thought, my verb and my subject. So, example is, Jim really likes golf, comma, but he doesn't like tennis. As opposed to, he stumbled but didn't fall. Yung example na yun walang comma kasi hindi naman siya coordinating conjunction yung ginamit kasi yung he stumbled, independent clause. However, yung didn't fall, hindi siya independent clause. Dependent clause siya. Yung una example, Jim really likes golf is an independent clause, comma, kasi kinoconnect siya ng coordinating conjunctions together. Tapos, he doesn't like tennis, yung pangalawang independent clause sa example na to. So rule number 5, use commas to set off introductory phrases and transitional devices. So sa example, yung unang example, ito yung example ng isang sentence na merong introductory phrase. So ang introductory phrase dito ay, since we have had no rain, comma, isa-separate mo siya dun sa main thought na we have watered our lawn every day. And then another example is, moreover is inaccurate. Moreover, comma, kasi yung moreover ay isa siyang klase ng transitional device to imply na merong connection yung sentence na to previous sentence na ginamit. Okay? So, sunod naman na rule is yung rule for semicolon. Rule number 1, use a colon after the salutation of a business letter. So, contrasting siya dun sa rule number 1 ng comma. Kasi kapag business letter ang pinag-uusapan, ang gagamitin mo ay colon instead na comma. So, for example, si Taylor Swift, meron siyang business partner na ang pangalan ay John. So, gagamitin niya ay colon. Dear John, ganyan. Rule number 2, use a semicolon between independent clauses if they're not joined by coordinating conjunctions. So sa example na to, Joshua was tired, that is an independent clause. He went home, independent clause din siya. Pero wala siya nung fanboys o nung coordinating conjunctions. Kaya lalagyan mo siya ng semicolon to separate the thoughts. Okay, so rule number 3, use a semicolon between independent clauses if they are joined by transitional devices. So, ang example is, Marco loves power, semicolon. However, yung transitional device na ginamit, comma, he misuses it. So, you separate the two independent clauses with a semicolon kapag ginagamitan siya, ay kapag meron siyang present na transitional device doon sa sentence na pangalawa. Okay, so rule number 4, use a colon before a list of items. So iba to doon sa rule number 2 ng comma, wala siyang colon kasi wala naman siya ng word na nag-i-indicate na magli-list ka specifically ng items. Katulad dito sa example, I like the following groups. So meron kasing word na following, kaya nilagyan mo ng colon after yung groups. So I like the following groups, colon, Les Seraphim, New Jeans, and Twice. Okay? So ito, example ng kung bakit kailangan mong gamitan ang Oxford comma or series comma. So, at the zoo, we saw the giraffes, comma, Trump, comma, and Kim Jong-un. So, ini-indicate dito sa sentence na to or ini-imply sa sentence na to na you saw three different things, animals, or people. Una, nakita mo muna yung mga giraffes. And then, nakita mo rin si Trump. And then, nakita mo rin si Jong-un. And then, sa pangalawang sentence naman, dito na nagkaroon ng problema. Kasi, at the zoo, we saw the giraffes, comma, Trump and Kim Jong-un. So, anong nangyari? Naging introductory phrase yung at the zoo we saw the giraffes. So, ang susunod, kasi wala silang comma together, or to separate them, parang naging ang labas is si Trump at si Kim Jong-un, yun yung pangalan ng giraffes. So, that's why you have to use Oxford comma. Last na technical skill na pag-uusapan natin ay capitalization. So, ang capital letters, ito yung mga useful na signal para sa mga reader. Meron siyang tatlong purpose. So, ang purpose na una ay to let the reader know that a sentence is beginning o nag-uumpisa yung sentence, to show important words in a title, and lastly, to signal proper names. So, dito sa rule number 1, it says na capitalize the first word in quotations kapag yung quotation ay isang buong sentence. So, dito sa example natin, yung nasa loob ng quotation ay complete sentence, kaya nakakapital yung first letter niya. Pero kung for example, phrase lang yung nasa loob ng quotation, you don't need to capitalize the first word. Okay, so rule number 2, use capitals for proper nouns. Again, proper nouns, ito yung nouns na tumutukoy sa specific name for a person, a place, or a thing. So, contrary siya sa common noun na general name for person, place, or thing. Ito naman sa example natin, ang common noun dito ay yung bridge. Ang proper noun naman ay Brooklyn Bridge. Kaya nakakapital ang first letters niya kasi it is a specific name for a particular bridge. Okay. Same with second example siya. Yung first letter ng Japan ay capitalized because it is a specific country. So lastly, rule number 3, in titles, capitalize all nouns, pronouns, adjectives, and verbs and adverbs. So do not capitalize daw yung mga articles, conjunctions, or prepositions that are 3 letters below. So example dito is yung the 7 husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Dito yung the ay article pero kasi nasa first yung placement niya. Like first place siya doon sa title kaya nakakapital. And then yung 7 is an adjective kaya nakakapital. Yung husbands is a noun kaya nakakapital yung first letter. Yung of is a preposition. And then yung Evelyn Hugo naman is a proper name or a proper noun, kaya nakakapital pareho. And then the hotel on the corner of bitter and sweet. Yung the again, article siya pero nasa first place kasi siya. And then yung hotel ay noun, yung on ay preposition, yung the, this time article siya pero wala na siya sa first place kaya hindi na siya nakakapital and three letter lang kasi siya. And then yung corner is a noun, yung of is a preposition again na mas mababa sa 3 letter. And then yung bitter is an adjective kaya nakakapital. Yung and ay conjunction kaya hindi siya nakakapital and 3 letter lang siya. And then yung sweet is another adjective kaya nakakapital yung S. So in conclusion, proofreading and copy editing are crucial components of the writing process. When you present an output that is not inconsistent and error-ridden, it will communicate your ideas clearly and effectively. So when you apply these basic punctuation, spelling, capitalization, and hyphenation rules na na-discuss natin, magiging less of a problem na sa inyo yung pagiging mahirap basahin ng isang writing o isang work. So with that, we can move on to the learning activity so we could test your knowledge on the subject. So comment your answers here comment your answers para sa 5 slides na ipapresent ko and yung first 5 na person na makakakuha ng tamang answer para sa 5 slides na ito, automatically exempted na sila sa quiz. Okay. So for our activity, you just have to spot the error within the quotation. So ang unang quotation natin ay, It is the time you have wasted for your roast that makes your roast so important. So hanapin nyo dito kung asan sa quote yung error. So second quote, my life was narrated for me by others. Their voices were forceful, emphatic, and absolute. It had never occurred to me that my voice might be as strong as theirs. Okay, you have to find kung alin dito yung may error sa sentence na ito or sa quotation na ito. So third quotation, the teacher proceeded to belittle everyone from German Eva, who hated laziness, to Japanese Yukari, who loved paintbrushes and soap. Italian, Thai, Dutch, Korean, and Chinese, we all left class foolishly, believing that the worst over. Ang sunod naman na quotation ay, and then how is a body ever going to get through this blind place at night without the friendly old landmark? Okay, so last quotation na to, you just have to answer kung alin dito yung may error in terms of spelling, punctuation, capitalization, or hyphenation. And then, ang quotation ay, when you get to my age, dear, you can't go around in two-piece bathing suit. You don't have to figure for it. Okay, comment your answer, guys. 5 answers for 5 slides, and yung first 5 person na makakatama ng sagot, sila yung exempted sa ating quiz. So yan guys, ang homework nyo ay to proofread and copy edit your magazine project using these technical skills. You can apply kung ano yung mga natutunan nyo sa ating discussion para sa inyong magazine. So this isn't something na recorded, pero I just hope that you learned a thing or two enough para ma-apply nyo sila kung meron man kayong makitang errors katulad ng mga na-discuss natin. Okay, so thank you guys so much for listening, and thank you for letting us execute our demonstration teaching with you, with your section. And we truly appreciate yung time na in-spend nyo for this activity. And if you have more questions, or if you have your takeaways, you have your suggestions, pwede nyo silang ipadala dito sa Google Form link na to or Google Form code. So thank you guys. Good luck.